I hit Chicago, that's where my parents were living, and my father said, Walter, Mr. Scrogan, he's got a job for you, $25 a week and all of that. And I said, Dad, I want to be an artist. So I went to Kansas City, and Roy was in Kansas City working at a bank. So I went into this Kansas City film ad company. So that was where I got started in the animation business. But I wanted to experiment making the theatrical cartoons. They had the cartoons working with the humans. The cartoon would always come off the drawing board and run around in a real room and work with a real person. I said, well, maybe I'll pull a reversal on that. I'll put the humans in with the cartoon. I found a little girl that had been posing for some of the commercial things. But I still couldn't get anywhere with it, and the company began to collapse. There was no money coming in, so there was nothing left but to go into bankruptcy. I'd failed. But I learned a lot out of that. And I think it's important to have a good, hard failure when you're young, you know? It was in July, I think, 1923. I was 21 going on 22.
Now, my brother Roy was already in Los Angeles. We established the first animated cartoon studio in Hollywood. Several years of producing one series after another on shoestring budgets followed. Mickey Mouse came into our life.
He popped out of my mind onto a drawing pad on a train ride from Manhattan to Hollywood at a time when the business fortunes of my brother Roy and myself were at lowest ebb and disaster seemed right around the corner. Mickey's first actual screen appearance was at the Old Colony Theater in New York in Steamboat Willie. I did the voice. Mickey was the first cartoon character to stress personality. I thought of him from the first as a distinct individual, not just a cartoon type or symbol going through comedy routine. Mickey was simply a little personality assigned to the purposes of laughter. Technicolor about that time came out with their 3-color process. I was very excited about it. I had a picture in work called Flowers and Trees. I had finished about half of it in black and white. But I just felt that this color would do so much for the cartoon medium. Flowers and Trees opened. And fortunately for me, it did hit Flowers and Trees when I won an Academy Award, the first cartoon to ever win an Academy Award. I saw the handwriting on the wall early, because the short subject is just a filler on any program. I just felt I just had to diversify my business. Now, if I could crack the feature field, I could do things. I had done a little story research on different fairy tales I might do, and Snow White was one of them. It's a thing I remembered as a kid. I saw it in Kansas City one time when I was a newsboy. They had a big showing for all the newsboys, and I went and saw Snow White. It's probably one of my first big feature pictures I'd ever seen. We started Snow White sometime late 35, and we had it running in the theaters December 37. So actually it was around 2 years in the making. Different types of things that I could do with my organization, that I could fall on my nose with one of these pictures, but I had another one right behind it that would hit. So then I started out, and the first one I think I did there was Cinderella. Cinderella hit, made a lot of money. Alice in Wonderland came out and just made a nosedive, you see. Cinderella, you pulled for Cinderella. You felt for Cinderella. Alice, there are millions of people who didn't care about Alice. There's no heart to her. Without that heart, you see, I don't think anything will laugh. In other words, with every laugh, there must be a tear somewhere, and I believe in that. Television was the start of Disneyland. The idea for a Disneyland lay dormant all those years. It came along when I was taking my kids around to these kiddie parks. While they were on the merry-go-round riding 40 times or something, you know, I'd be sitting there trying to figure what you could do.
And when I built the studio, I thought, well, gee, we ought to have really a three-dimensional thing that people could actually come and visit. You know, I was stumped one day when a little boy asked, "Do you draw Mickey Mouse?" And I had to admit I do not draw anymore. Well, then you think up all the jokes and ideas. No, I said, I don't do that. Finally, he looked at me and said, "Mr. Disney, just what do you do?" Well, I said, sometimes I think of myself as a little bee. I go from one area of the studio to another and gather pollen and sort of stimulate everybody. I guess that's the job I do.